Welcome to Road to Recovery.
Welcome to the Road to Recovery, Advocacy and Insights for Trucking Accidents with Sagi Shaked. Sagi is the founder of Shaked Law Personal Injury Lawyers and is ranked as one of the top 100 trial lawyers in the United States by the American Trial Lawyers Association. With a wealth of experience in personal injury, wrongful death, and complex litigation cases, he passionately advocates for victims and has recovered multi-million-dollar settlements in damages for his clients. I'm your host, Sophia Morales, and today's episode is the top 10 mistakes injury victims make that can destroy their case. I'm so glad to have you here with me today, Sagi.
Thank you, Sophia. I look forward to this episode and exposing the top 10 mistakes people make.
Yeah, I think this is a really important topic. And as a layperson, I would imagine it's easy to make a mistake without even realizing you're making it. So what kind of things happen and what's the big deal here?
Yeah, even if you're, the other side's 100% at fault and you're 0% at fault, this isn't, like you would think, oh, I'm injured and I get paid. This is a game that the insurance companies play, and you have to know how to navigate this game that they play. So everything that you do, every action you make, these adjusters, they're trained on how to hunt for them. So they have classes that they go to on how to pinpoint mistakes that injured people make or how to create issues in a case. So sometimes you'll have insurance companies immediately after the crash, they want to pay you $1,000 or $2,000 and get you to sign a release, even though you're badly hurt and you don't even know your rights because you've never had one of these accidents. You don't know what to do. So they're there to hunt for your mistakes, and they're going to point them out when you're representing a person, what the mistakes are. So today we're going to talk about those 10 mistakes that really destroy a case.
Excellent. Because as you mentioned, and that's something I hadn't thought about before, you're a rank amateur going into this game that they play on a daily basis. So what is the first big mistake that people make after an injury?
Yeah, remember, the insurance companies, they're all pros at this. They have $1 billion or $1 trillion behind them. They study this. They know what works. So let's talk about mistake number one. Is not getting medical treatment immediately. If you're hurt, this only deals if you're hurt. Obviously, if you're not hurt, don't waste your time. But if you're hurt, toughing it out is the worst way to do it. If you're hurt, go to the hospital, go to the urgent care, go to your doctor. Don't wait too many days. So first thing I would say is immediate medical treatment. Because the insurance companies, they always tell me, oh, they didn't go to the doctor right away. If someone's hurt, they go to the doctor. So that's, they're hunting the insurance adjusters. They're hunting for that. Did you go to the doctor right away? So immediately go to the doctor. Super important.
Excellent. Question for you on that, immediately go to the doctor, because I was in a car accident many years ago, and it was a week or more before the back injury became apparent. What do you do in that circumstance?
Well, you have to explain why. So some people do tough it out. Like, you know what? They don't want to deal with the hospitals. There's, all types of bacteria, infections. They don't want to go. And sometimes you call your primary care and they can't get you in for a week. And so you have to sit there and you're taking medication. So you really want to find out, why is it that the person didn't go to the hospital, to the urgent care, to the doctor? And some people, with the adrenaline rush, they don't go right away. They don't want to go. They're not looking for a case. And that totally makes sense. Everyone's going to understand that. 1 week is not that big of a deal. But when you go months upon months, that's a problem for the case, And when I was a younger lawyer, I thought I was Superman. I was coming off, 10 wins in a row, and I thought I could handle everything. And then you get humbled when, you're representing someone who waited 3 months to go to treatment. That's not a good idea. Not if you're looking to get, compensation for what happened to you. So 1 week is not so bad. You just got to explain it. Find out from the client, what did they go through? Did they try, Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever they tried? Did they try resting? Were they trying to get better? And that's normal. I think a lot of people don't want to rush to hospitals or urgent care or doctors. And then sometimes, again, you can't get to the doctor right away because it's just the way the system works. It's just hard to get in sometimes.
So, what's the second mistake that injury victims make?
Missing doctor's appointments. So you no show or you cancel, adjusters love it. If you're
Mm.
hurt, why are you not going to the doctor? Why are you no showing? So they use that against us. They're constantly trying to create issues where there's no issues. Why? Because they test these things. They know what resonates with a jury and what doesn't resonate. They know how to anger the jury against the person that's injured. So if you're hurt and injured, go to the doctor and get better. If that doctor is not doing their job, then find a doctor that will do their job and help you. Some doctors are not for every patient. So find a doctor that can help you, but don't miss those appointments. Those are important if you're trying to get better.
So, what's the third mistake?
Third mistake is, I would say, talking to an insurance company.
Oh,
If you're doing that, you're making a mistake because you don't know your rights. You're not
mhm.
playing in an even field. They're a slash trillion-dollar company. They test everything. They know why they have their questions. And you going in there without having any knowledge, any background on accidents, how the system works, why they're asking certain questions, you're getting tricked and they're locking you into certain testimony. And that is not good because they're going to record you right away. They're going to want your permission to record you. They're going to try to twist your words, get you to admit your fault or get you to admit you made a mistake. And as good as you think you are, people make mistakes on those recordings because everyone thinks they're the best, right? I can't make a mistake. And people make mistakes all the time. They just don't know because you haven't had the experience. That's why you go to someone who does this for a living and has seen all the bad stuff. So that's why we're addressing it now. Hopefully, people take the advice.
I've made that mistake more than once in my life.
It
How do you
happens to
get out of
everybody.
that phone call because they call you and then it's like so and so from the insurance company?
Yeah,
What do
that's
you
a great
tell them?
question. That's a great question. And look, if you're hurt, you tell them, look, I'm in too much pain right now to talk. I can't talk. Or you know what? I've never had this. I've never done this before. I know you say you're my adjuster, but you do work for the insurance company. I'm gonna get a lawyer. And know what my rights are. I want to protect my rights because I don't know what my rights are. So that's what I would do because they're immediately on the phone before you get a lawyer. They're trying to take your statement to again lock it down. So it's to their benefit and you don't know what your rights are. You don't know. You don't have to give them a statement if it's not your insurance company. They can wait. So that's what I would do. I would tell them, I'm not feeling well. If you're not feeling well, and saying, I don't want to talk right now. I want to know what my rights are. I'm going to speak to a lawyer.
So, what's the fourth mistake?
This is a big mistake. And you see this mistake happening more and more with the younger generation, but there's been you see in the millenniums and a lot of the different generations, you're starting to see this happen too. Posting on social media
Oh, Lord.
all the time. We have to deal with this, and it's just it used to be in the past when I first started practicing. I started practicing in 2000, 25 years ago. Um, we would hire when I worked for the insurance companies and being a defense lawyer, we would hire surveillance people. They would go out, investigators, and follow you around with a camera, unsuspecting kind of camera from far away, and trying to get you to trying to get the injured person, showing that they're doing something wrong. Nowadays,
Or something they shouldn't be able to do, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But nowadays, they don't need to do that. People are posting on social media and they're just killing their case. There was a famous case. It was I can't remember. Gwyneth Paltrow was skiing down the slopes, I think in Utah, and she skis and she runs into this doctor. I think he was an eye doctor, and they had their trial. Their trial was really interesting. It was televised all over the news, so you get to watch this trial. And I was watching the cross examination by Gwyneth Paltrow's lawyer of the eye doctor because the eye doctor said he was hurt when she slammed into him and he couldn't do all these things. And he posted on his social media all these amazing trips that he'd been on, like 40 different countries and
Wow.
doing all these amazing things. And he was like so hurt that he had all these conditions. And, the defense lawyer is just for Gwyneth Paltrow was like, well, doctor, Mr. Whatever his name is, you're so hurt, you were able to go to Europe. Yeah, you're so hurt, you were able to get on that flight from California all the way to Europe that took 18 hours. No problem, right? You then were able to travel from this place, and they're putting up the social media post of every place that this person went to. It just looked like this wasn't even believable. Like, why are you even
Showing them
bringing it
hiking in
home?
the mountains and whatever.
Yeah. So it was ridiculous. So I would take this tip. Assume the defense lawyer, even if you don't post, they're looking at your social media. They're going to look for everything. That's what they do. Insurance adjusters, defense lawyers, they're looking at your social media because they're going to use your social media against you. So avoid social media. You can scroll, you can look, you can watch. Just try not to post stuff, and do not delete anything because they can use that against you. So let's not delete anything, but don't post anything. I prefer that they don't post.
What's not out there is hard to get a hold of.
Exactly.
So, what is the fifth mistake that people make?
So I think people, you see this a lot more with men than you see with women. Downplaying the injuries. You know, men, they want to be macho, this and that. Oh, I can live with the pain. This is no problem. I
Walk
had a
it off.
case. Yeah, walk it off. Yeah, exactly. I got a concussion. Just get back in there and play. So I had a case many, many years ago. A friend of mine was in a really bad impact. It was bad rear ender, and he's like complaining at the scene of back pain. I'm like, well, if you're hurt, just go to the hospital. You never know. What if you have internal bleeding? What's going on? He goes, nah, I'll, like you said, Sophia, I'll walk it off.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he's not going anywhere. It's not till like 4 or 5 weeks later he decides to go to the doctor, and of course, he created what they call a gap in treatment, a gap before he even starts treating. I believed him because he called me from the scene, and he called me, always complaining. And I'm like, stop complaining, just do something about it. And he finally did. But then there became a really big issue in the case. How do we know something else didn't happen in those 5 weeks?
Yeah.
So
How do we know he didn't fall off a ladder or something?
exactly,
Yeah.
fall at home, or, who knows? So those are things, you need to do. If you're injured, talk about it. If you're not, then you're not. And that's no big deal. But we're talking about people who are injured, obviously.
What's the sixth mistake that people make after an accident?
So here's the flip side, right? We talked about if you're injured, talk about it. Sixth mistake, do not exaggerate. There's no need to exaggerate because, again, if you get caught in a lie, a credibility issue, that's going to hurt your case. Juries don't like it. Adjusters don't like it. Defense lawyers don't like it. So there's no need to exaggerate. You got injuries, we deal with the injuries you have. If you exaggerate and they catch you, sort of like if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, wiggles its little tail like a duck, it's a duck. If you're exaggerating, they're going to find out. So let's not exaggerate. Stick to the injuries that you have.
Okay. And the seventh mistake that people make.
Seventh mistake would be not following your doctor's orders.
Oh.
Because if the doctor's telling you, come in, let's do therapy, let's try to mitigate the damages, the injuries that you have by getting the therapy that you need. If you're not going in, if I'm a defense lawyer, which I'm not, but if I was defending the case, I'm like, well, you didn't follow your doctor's orders. Of course, your injuries got worse, right? That's what they would say. And they do say that. So it's your job. If you're hurt, go to the doctor, voice your complaints. Remember, we're not going to exaggerate, and you're going to follow what the doctor tells you to do.
Okay. Counterpoint. Right. I've been injured. I'm probably not going to work. I may not be getting paid at the level I've normally getting paid. How do I pay for all this doctor stuff?
So it depends on the state that you live in, right? So in Florida, for example, and some other states, they have what's called PIP, personal injury protection, and that'll pay for 80% of your medical bills or 60% of your lost wages. So that could help you. And then sometimes also people if they're really badly injured, they can get a loan against their case to help them get by while they're down, and out and they can't work. So if you're in a state that has PIP coverage, you can get your lost wages paid for. Now, if you're in a state that doesn't have it, there are companies that can help you get through the process so you can go to your doctors and get better. Hopefully that answered that question.
So, what's mistake number 8?
Is giving inconsistent stories. For example, we tried a case many, many years ago, back in 2004, I think it was. And there were 6 versions of how the incident occurred. It wasn't a truck case. It was a little boy that stuck his hand near the lawnmower and a part of it came off. And so there was one, record that said he got stuck on the grass and landed on the lawnmower. Another one said that he stuck his hand underneath the lawnmower where the blade was. I mean, can you imagine if he stuck his hand underneath the lawnmower where the blade was? His hand would have got chopped off. It wouldn't have been the little cuts, not the little cut, the cuts that he had to his nerve. So there was different versions of how it happened. Now he's a child, and of course, there was panic because mom had taken him to the hospital, and there were inconsistent stories. Some stories we were able to knock out right away because they just didn't make any sense. But if you're going to the doctors, make sure your story is consistent, because defense lawyers and insurance companies, they thrive on those inconsistent stories. So let's not give inconsistent statements or inconsistent stories. Let's give one consistent story. It makes the defense's job really, really hard, and that helps settle your case. So sometimes it's out of your control because you don't know what the doctor's writing, and that's most of the time. But trying to say the same story over and over and over again is the best way to do it.
What is mistake number 9?
So, and this is key. I think if you're trying to settle your case too early, that's a mistake. And why do I say that? A lot of times, the insurance companies will just offer fast money to the litigants or the lawyers in hopes that they don't settle for, to get the full justice for their case. So, if it's $1 million case and they're offering you $300,000, a lot of lawyers will take that because, hey, they have to meet their advertising, spend. They have to have a certain amount. They have to settle a certain amount of cases per month, which is not fair for the client, and that happens.
Yeah.
So don't rush to settle your case. Most of the time, the statute of limitations in most cases is 2 years. In Florida, it's 2 years on a general auto accident case. In some cases, like Tennessee, I believe it's 1 year. There are some states that it's 3 years. So it just depends on when your case is. These cases take time. Do not rush the settlement, because rushing the settlement will mean you're getting less money for your injuries.
What would be a sign that your lawyer maybe is feeling some of this distress and is rushing to settle your case?
Yeah, I mean, if they're pushing you to settle right away, that should be a concern for you. Obviously, it depends on a lot of factors. There may not be insurance or enough insurance, but if it's a big policy on the other side and you're really hurt, don't just take the low hanging fruit. It's easier, right? It's easier to do less work and get paid. But these cases do take time. And, we had a case, it was a traumatic brain injury case. They offered us $19,000 in pre litigation. And the guy has a brain injury, and no matter what we would do in pre litigation, they wouldn't offer it. We filed a lawsuit. It was almost 2 years later, but we settled it for $5 million. And that's what the case was worth. But it took a long time to get there. So, as a client, you have to be patient. Let your lawyer, if they know what they're doing, get someone who's skilled and experienced. Be patient. You can call them and ask them for details on what's going on, but be patient. Let them do their job and really maximize your case. And then sometimes a trial is needed because you want to get fair justice for what happened, not, peanuts on the dollar. It's not fair to the person who's injured. The person who's injured is really living with it. So it's our job to really know what they're feeling. So, sometimes, you have aches and pains, but you got to think the client's going through this all the time. What would you want for that? And, there's no amount of money. So I want to get my clients, all the justice in the world. I want to make sure they're getting paid.
Yeah, well, and sometimes injuries linger on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
A
So
long
true.
trail behind it. So what's mistake number 10?
Mistake number 10, we'll finish it off with mistake number 10. Thinking you don't need a lawyer. That's the mistake, because it's you versus a billion-dollar corporation that's studied every which way to screw your case. You need a lawyer. Get an experienced lawyer. Don't go at it alone. You need to level the playing field.
That's amazing words of advice. How would you put a bow on this? What is the final word for any injury victims who are listening today?
So I would say is the moment that your case starts, the moment you get hurt, not the moment you walk into the courtroom. By the time you walk into the courtroom, the mistakes have been made. So you really want to go to a lawyer that knows what they're doing, has the experience in the courtroom. So when you do get to the courtroom, all that year plus that you've had that case open, those mistakes haven't happened. And the reason they haven't happened is your lawyer has experience and they've gone through those things. They've taken beatings in the past and they know what to do and what not to do. Stay smart, quiet, get your medical attention, and talk to your lawyer early. And that would be my final words or wisdom of advice on this topic.
That's extremely helpful, and I wish I'd heard all of this when I was much younger.
It's never too late, or too late for that purpose, but
the next time around, knock on wood, hopefully there isn't one.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. Thanks for tuning in to The Road to Recovery, Advocacy and Insights for Trucking Accidents with Sagi Shaked. For more information or to connect with Sagi, visit shakedlaw.com, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and review.
Thanks, Sophia. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.